Everyone treated him as a trash mage, but he unlocks 2 abilities instead of 1 and becomes most powerful student but hides it. Mo-Fan is a young, ugly, lonely loser from an extremely poor family. As a third-year student, he took an entrance examination but couldn't answer any questions. It wasn't because he didn't work hard or attend classes, but because he had only started learning magic about 3 months prior. Realizing the test covered magic knowledge, Mo-Fan left the exam hall quickly. Outside, he met an older man who gave him a pendant, changing Mo-Fan's life to revolve around magic. As he left, his classmate Mu-Bai, from a prestigious magic family with ice affinity, also came out. Mu-Bai downplayed the exam's importance, emphasizing the significance of awakening elemental affinity and improving skills in magic school. At the school gates, Mo-Fan found his father, Mo Jiaxing, waiting. His father asked about the exam, and Mo-Fan admitted feeling disheartened. Despite this, his father reassured him, mentioning a job as a delivery man with a decent starting salary. Mo-Fan, however, strongly refused, pleading with his father to help him become a mage instead of following in his father's footsteps as a lifelong servant. Seeing Mo-Fan's passion, his father promised to secure admission for him. Several days had passed when Mo-Fan took a bus home with Zhang Xiaohu. During their conversation, Zhang Xiaohu mentioned seeing Mu Ningxu, who happened to be Mo-Fan's childhood best friend and the princess of the Mu family. Despite this revelation, Mo-Fan remained indifferent. Later, Mo-Fan's father pleaded with Mu-Bai to secure admission for Mo-Fan at the magic school. Unfortunately, Mu-Bai refused, pointing to Mo-Fan's previous mistake of attempting to elope with their daughter. As Mo Jiaxing had served the Mu family for years, Mu-Bai demanded their land in exchange for any assistance. Mo-Fan overheard this conversation and understood the sacrifices his father was making just for his admission. Upon returning home, during dinner, his father lied to him. He claimed to have met an old friend who was the principal at the magic school, and this friend had agreed to admit Mo-Fan without expecting anything in return. His father also suggested renting out their house since both Mo-Fan and his sister Xingxia would be staying at the dorm school, leaving the house empty. Despite being aware of the truth, Mo-Fan smiled to make his father happy. That night, he reflected on a past situation involving Mu Ningxu. On a particular night, she had begged him to run away with her, and he had agreed, but they got caught. This incident led to Mu Ningxu's father, Mu Zhaowen, humiliating Mo-Fan's father. At last, the school semester began, and the first task was to discover their magical abilities. The students made fun of Mo-Fan, thinking he had paid his way into the school. Mu-Bai went first and ended up with a 1-star ice element. Other students found their elements, though none had stars. When it was Mo-Fan's turn, he passed by many elements until he found a purple one. Suddenly, a student from another class revealed the thunder element, the strongest and rarest. The students left Mo-Fan with the crystal, and eventually he discovered he had awakened the thunder element. At first, he didn't realize the purple light indicated this rare element. Mo-Fan also found out he had awakened the fire element. Unsure if having 2 elements was possible, he chose to keep the thunder element a secret. When the other students returned, they assumed he was still struggling, but the teacher noticed Mo-Fan's fire element and praised him. Zhang Xiao, who even said that only 2 from their class had awakened fire. Despite the applause, Mo-Fan decided to keep the thunder element hidden since nobody saw him. In the next class, the teacher explained how to activate their elements, emphasizing the importance of connecting the 7 stars. Mu-Bai demonstrated by connecting 5 stars, earning praise from the teacher. However, when the school bell rang, Mo-Fan's single star attracted attention. Mu-Bai's friends mocked him, claiming his father's sacrifice was in vain. Feeling pressured, Mo-Fan left school, leaving others unaware of his thoughts. Mo-Fan had gone to a secret spot where he practiced his magic. He admitted that he'd been training in thunder magic instead of fire. While his fire magic was at 1 star, thunder magic had reached an impressive 6 stars. Despite attempting to reach the 7th star, he couldn't succeed. Remembering he needed to see his sister, he quickly grabbed his bag and went to find Xingxia. He found Xingxia sitting on a swing instead of her wheelchair as she was disabled. When he asked her what was wrong, he discovered that bullies had taken her wheelchair. Mo-Fan wanted to confront them, but Xingxia stopped him, fearing they would be outnumbered. As he approached the boys, he overheard their leader saying he wanted to date Xingxia, with the condition that he would return her wheelchair if she agreed. Angry about the situation, Mo-Fan confronted the boys, but they refused, threatening to beat him until he joined his disabled sister. Enraged by the derogatory term disabled, Mo-Fan activated thunder magic. Successfully doing so, he used Thunderstrike on the boys, who quickly apologized and begged for mercy before running away. Mo Fan then returned the wheelchair to Xingxia, who was impressed with his abilities. Meanwhile, Mu Bai met with his uncle Mu Joyan to discuss Mo Fan's situation. They planned to ensure Mo Fan was expelled from school during the upcoming test. After returning home, Mo Fan attempted to train his fire affinity in the bathtub but found it too hot. His sister brought him food and expressed concern about his rapid growth. She mentioned the Black Cult, an illegal association for quick level ups. Mo Fan reassured her that he was not doing something illegal and decided to hide his thunder ability, focusing on fire for the test. The next day, they had a new magic practice teacher named Tang Yu. During class, when Mo Fan stood up, the other students laughed at him because of his low star level. Tang Yu showed them the Ignite skill, the strongest fire skill. Mo Fan decided he would work hard to learn it. Mu Bai thought that relying on the crystal ball test to get rid of Mo Fan might not work. His uncle had a dark stone that could drain a person's energy and power. They planned to put it under the crystal during Mo Fan's test, saying it was a punishment for competing against him. Mu Bai was worried about the stone affecting everyone, but his uncle assured him they had a plan with one of the examiners. Once their plan was set, they left. Meanwhile, Mo Fan kept trying to get better at his fire skills. He went to a secret place and tried to connect his stars. Unfortunately, he could only connect 5 of them. He really wanted to connect all 7 so he could pass the magic release test and surprise those who doubted him. He knew that Mu Zhaoan, the head of the Mu family, and Mu Ningxu's father, who had embarrassed his own father, would be there. Mo Fan aimed to do well and make them regret how they treated his family. Despite facing difficulties, he kept trying to connect the stars. Mo Fan even went to a training center to use magic release and improve his skills. After a few days, the examination day arrived. Before the test, their class teacher motivated them, emphasizing the importance of grades ranging from D to A. He warned that anyone with a D grade would be expelled on the spot. When a student asked if a magic release was compulsory, the teacher explained that it wasn't, but those skilled in it could request a test for admission to the elite class and receive a star bracelet that could make their progress faster. Everyone went to the field for the test, and the school's head teacher welcomed them. He mentioned the presence of the great master of the Mu family and his daughter, Mu Ningxu, who became the school prodigy by joining the Magic Academy at the age of 15. Mu Zhaoan spoke to the students, and during his speech, everyone's attention was on Mu Ningxu. She was described as beautiful, radiant, and cold. Mu Bai had a plan to embarrass Mo Fan in front of her. After Mu Zhaoan's speech, Mu Ningxu demonstrated a magic release, instantly breaking the crystal and leaving the students amazed. The tests began, with students taking turns. Zhang Xiaohu, Mo Fan's best friend, received an A but failed in the magic release test he requested. Despite classmates laughing, Tang Yu encouraged him, saying he just needed better training. Finally, it was Mu Bai's turn, and he scored an S. They made sure Mu Zhaoan watched his performance, and even Mo Fan's sister, Mu Hai, kept asking about his progress. Mu Bai scored the highest in the class on his magic test, getting a B for his magic release. Mu Zhaoan was impressed, but when Mu Ningxu was asked for her opinion, she simply said he was just okay. When it was Mo Fan's turn, Mu Ningxu was told to leave, but she decided to watch. Mr. Mu and a corrupt examiner shared a cheeky smirk before Mo Fan was on stage and secretly placed a black stone under the crystal ball as they planned. This stone looks like a normal stone, but it's used to absorb magic, and that way Mo Fan could fail the exam. Mo Fan gets on stage and places his hand on the ball, but he struggled to release any energy, considering his strength. Everyone else ridicules and laughs at him for being so pathetic, but Mo Fan doesn't stop trying. Eventually, the black stone broke after absorbing too much energy, and he got a B. However, Tang Yu protested, claiming the crystal was faulty. Mu Ningxu also noticed the flaw. They decided to change the crystal, and on the second attempt, Mo Fan achieved an S. His fire even outshone Mu Bai's. After the test, Mo Fan requested a magic release test, shocking all the students. He released level 1 Ignite, sharper and finer than any other fire magic seen on a usual day. Principal Zhu, impressed by Mo Fan's abilities, recalled that Mo Fan was once part of the Mu family. However, Mu He clarified that Mo Fan wasn't a family member but the son of their driver, with no inheritance or access to family training. Principal Zhu commented that Mo Fan's remarkable progress within a year without any magic equipment indicated prodigious talent. Realizing this, Mu Zhaoan tried to impress Mo Fan by offering family heirlooms and suggesting he return to the family for support. Mo Fan found the idea ridiculous, remembering how the family had humiliated his father a few years ago. Angry at Mu Xiaowen's audacity, he rejected the offer, questioning if they thought he would become a slave for the family. Enraged, Mu Xiaowen turned the entire floor to ice. Principal Zhu intervened, reminding him they were on school premises. Mo Fan stood firm, refusing to kneel and apologize. He even challenged Mu Xiaowen, questioning if he had ever apologized to his father. Despite the tension, Principal Zhu resisted expulsion, insisting on his authority over unnecessary student expulsions. Mu Bai stepped forward to confront Mo Fan. However, Mu Xiaowen proposed to duel against Mo Fan, with his adopted son Yuang representing him. Angered, Mo Fan agreed, but Tang Yu pointed out that it was illegal for students to duel before the age of 18. Tang Yu suggested waiting until they were all 18 before the duel. In response, Mu Xiaowen decided to leave the school, vowing to train Yuang extensively until he turned 18. Soon after, the elite class started with Tang Yu as their assistant teacher. The class was informed that they would be training based on their positions, using a magic artifact. However, due to Mo Fan's actions, he was only allowed to use it for 10 days. Misplacing or destroying the artifact would result in expulsion. Mo Fan, eager to prove himself, took the artifact first and trained with his friend. Seeking advice, he approached Mu Bai, who revealed that Yuang used to train for 3 months but now trained for 6, especially after the dual threat. The school possessed a rare spirit-grade magic artifact that boosted training power by 40%. Making Yuang a formidable contender. Mo Fan then attempted the second level of the Ignite skill and practiced outside at night. However, his pendant reacted strangely, swallowing the magic artifact. Tang Yu discovered this and, after Mo Fan confessed, explained that it was a rare growth-type magic artifact. She advised him to keep it hidden to avoid drawing attention. The next day, the students went on a trip to the Snow Summit Station. There, they met Jan Kong, the station head, who challenged them to defeat monsters. Success meant getting an A, while failure meant an F despite objections. Mo Fan was determined to win because Jan Kong promised the winner a special magic artifact. The students were split into groups, with Mo Fan, the top student, leading one. They faced challenges, like a broken mountain path, but with their skills, they overcame obstacles. Mo Fan's group met Mu Bai's, and Mu Bai's friends mocked them, thinking they wouldn't reach the hunting place. Meanwhile, one of the mages following the students informed Jan Kong that they had reached their destination. The best students included Mu Bai, Zhu Min, and Zhang Xiaohu. Tang Yu realized Jan Kong cared about the students, so he sent his mages with them. Tang Yu asked about a red-eyed wolf in the forest, and Jan Kong said there was none. However, he wanted the students to confront something. The students reached a cave, discovering it was where a one-eyed monster had been killed. Jan Kong sent them to investigate and find his lost bracelet. The students were angry, feeling uncomfortable risking their lives for a bracelet. Zhu Min explained they had to succeed to pass and attend a good magic university. They entered the cave with light mages leading. Mo Fan noticed a low water level in a pool, suggesting a monster had recently left. Zhang Xiao, who got scared and warned the classmates, but they dismissed him as a coward. Inside the cave, they heard a wolf. A classmate extinguished the light, and her classmates thought he was a coward until they saw the monster. Mu Bai and Zhu Min tried to attack, but Mo Fan stopped Zhu Min, warning that the wolf would have killed her. Jan Kong was disappointed. It wasn't a one-eyed wolf but Inspector Bai's spirit wolf. He hoped a student would activate magic, but none did, keeping his magic armor safe. Back on the mountain, the students couldn't find the tied rope, and worry set in. Mu Bai decided to face the wolf again, using his level 1 ice spell. Unfortunately, it couldn't hold the wolf down. Zhu Min tried her fireball, but it also failed. Zhu Jiating, with his lightning skills, attempted Thunder Serpent but also failed. The monster scared everyone, causing them to collapse. Mo Fan returned to the cave, realizing that no level 1 skill could harm the monster. He decided to use his level 2 Ignite, which successfully injured the creature. Tang Yu mocked the mages, predicting that their spirit wolf would be the third to get hurt. Upon discovering promising students, Jan Kong instructed Inspector Bai to recall his spirit wolf. Unfortunately, the spirit wolf lost control and turned violent. Inspector Bai clarified that initially, his orders were to avoid injuring students. However, with the monster out of control, it posed a threat to the students. Tang Yu expressed concern for their safety and urged a rescue mission. Jan Kong activated his high-level spirit magic, named Wind of Wing, and flew towards the students. Meanwhile, the angered wolf emerged, targeting Mo Fan. The students screamed, and Mo Fan hid to assess the situation. The wolf found a nervous female student about to attack her, but Zhu Jiaoting intervened, carrying her to safety. Mo Fan realized the dire situation and contemplated a plan. He knew only a few students could confront the wolf, but they were incapacitated. Before the wolf reached him, Zhang Xiao who found Mo Fan and carried him away with his wind. They decided to distract the wolf from the students and lead it inside the cave. As the wolf entered the cave, the guilt-ridden students acknowledged Mo Fan and Zhang Xiaohu's sacrifice. Jian Kong arrived and learned of their whereabouts. Aware of the low chances of survival, he rushed to the cave. Inside the cave, Mo Fan and Zhang Xiaohu ran until reaching a dead end near a pool. Removing their wind, they landed on the floor as the wolf prepared to attack. The wolf aimed at Mo Fan, but Zhang Xiaohu intervened, taking the hit and collapsing. Enraged, Mo Fan threatened the wolf, activating his thunder skill. He followed up with a level 2 thunder, weakening the wolf. Using Ignite, Mo Fan cut a stalactite above the wolf, causing it to stab the weakened creature. The wolf struggled for a while before succumbing to its injuries and dying. Immediately after it died, the spirit energy from the wolf entered Mo Fan's pendant. The pendant absorbed it, and Jian Kong eventually arrived with his wind of wing. Seeing the dead wolf, he wondered how it had happened. He mentioned that even a team of experts couldn't kill the wolf, so he was curious about Mo Fan's method. Mo Fan explained that he had stabbed the wolf with a stalactite. Jian Kong advised him to first attend to his injured friend, and they left the cave. As they journeyed, they met fellow students and their teacher. Teacher Zhu felt relieved to see the students safe and commended Jian Kong for arriving just in time. Inspector Bai, excited about his spirit wolf, came over and requested it, assuming it was still alive. Jian Kong revealed the lifeless body, and Inspector Bai couldn't hold back his tears. He questioned why Jian Kong had killed the wolf when he believed he could control it. Jian Kong explained that Mo Fan was responsible, but Inspector Bai doubted it. Tang Yu asked Mo Fan for an explanation, and he clarified the situation, apologizing to Inspector Bai for accidentally killing his spirit pet. The students realized it was a test gone wrong. Tang Yu expressed disappointment in everyone, stating that without Mo Fan and Zhang Xiaohu's courage, they would have all died in vain. Jian Kong admitted his failure in leading the others and penalized Zhang Xiaohu, Zhu Min, Zhu Jiaoting, and Mu Bai. Mo Fan received an S. Tang Yu then reminded him of his promise to give them all an A and insisted on Mo Fan receiving his magic armor. Upon returning to the field, Jian Kong called them for their awards. After Mo Fan received his award, Jian Kong asked if he would join his army after school. Mo Fan, impressed by Jian Kong's negotiation skills, jokingly asked if he was a mage or a bandit. Mo Fan expressed his desire to attend the magic university instead of joining the army. When he asked for his armor, Jian Kong denied making such a promise, suspecting Mo Fan was hiding something. Back at the cave, Jian Kong noticed a strange burn mark on the floor. He believed that if Mo Fan had only broken the stalactite, the wolf could have avoided it, suspecting that Mo Fan had done something before that. Before he could conclude his findings, they informed him of a monster attack on his base, so he rushed to fight. Recalling the events, Jian Kong heard about skeleton wolves in his arena, and commanded his armies to defeat them. 2 months ago, Mo Fan finished his training. Even though the training had ended, he kept practicing his magic skills. Trying out thunder magic, he realized he was stuck at level 1 and not making any progress. Looking back at his improvement since the last encounter with the spirit wolf, he admitted a 20% boost in his magical abilities, thanks to the pendant. Remembering his skill with fire match magic, Mo Fan spent the past months refining his fire magic and reached level 2. Comparing his fire magic to Zhu Min's level 1 fireball during the cave encounter, he found that only level 2 skills were effective against monsters. Dreaming of becoming a powerful mage, Mo Fan aimed to unlock his level 2 thunder skill to witness its immense power. Recalling Tang Yu's explanation about the Loach pendant acting as a growth spirit, he remembered that the pendant absorbed the spirit of the wolf during their fight. Believing that accumulating more monster spirits in his pendant would make him stronger, he faced a financial obstacle. The items needed for the pendant's growth were costly, and he found himself in need of money. Contemplating whether to join the Hunters Guild, he thought it would be easier to kill monsters and grow stronger while gaining experience and earning money. Convinced that joining the Hunters Guild was the solution, the next day he went to the Hunters Hall. Inside, he saw a long line and felt unsure about what to do. Passing by a board, he overheard 2 men talking. One asked if he could take on a mission, but the other said it was impossible because he was a low-level mage and would likely die. The man suggested trying to join the Monster Hunters team, which only hunted around the city. However, the other man laughed, claiming no hunter team would accept him, especially not the Monster Hunters team. Overhearing this, Mo Fan thought working with the Monster Hunter team was his best option as a student in the city. Approaching the man, he inquired about the Monster Hunter team. The man dismissed him, telling him not to waste his time, and pointed to the queue of people wanting to join the team. The only way to be accepted, he said, was to have a fire element. A low-level fire element would surely be accepted before any other element. When Mo Fan asked about the thunder element, the man laughed, reminding him that there was only one thunder mage in 1,000 mages, and thunder mages were rare. Upon discovering that Mo Fan had gone for the interview ahead of schedule, the team captain was already annoyed with his teammates. He grumbled about them consistently bringing in subpar candidates and insisted on finding someone exceptional with strong skills and determination. The team decided to put a pause on the recruitment process. When Mo Fan finally had his chance for the interview, he asked to speak with the captain. When they requested Hunter's registration form, Mo Fan didn't have it. He admitted his lack of experience but mentioned being a thunder mage. Although initially skeptical, the team was convinced when Mo Fan demonstrated his powers. They intended to consult the captain before making a decision, but Mo Fan hurriedly went there himself, using the alias. Impressed, the captain brought him inside and introduced him to Vice Captain Kai Tang, an ice mage. Mo Fan hoped she wouldn't recognize him with his cap and mask, recognizing her as Mu Ningxu's cousin. During the introduction, they learned that students from Mingwen Girls Middle School were missing, likely due to a monster. They set out for the mission, and the captain asked Mo Fan to return the next day. However, Mo Fan insisted on joining in the car as it was his sister's school. Trying to call his sister, she didn't answer. Upon arriving at the school, the captain instructed Mo Fan to check the canteen for the missing students. While there, he received a call from Xingxia, informing him that she had seen a strange girl heading to the canteen. Mo Fan went there and discovered a monster. He skillfully avoided an attack, alerting all the monster hunters. Acting swiftly, they took down the Cyclops. However, it remained alive and tried to attack OCCHI. Mo Fan promptly used his Thunder Serpent and defeated the monster. Despite being a newcomer, the captain praised Mo Fan's skills. Later that night, Mo Fan met Xingxia, who was relieved that her brother was safe. Meanwhile, Mu Zhaoan spoke with Yuang, explaining that their duel was for entertainment at the underground Holy Spring. Mu Zhaoan believed it to be Yuang's initial step in gaining recognition. Simultaneously, an one-eyed wolf appeared somewhere. Returning to school, after class, Zhang Xiao who told Mo Fan that Zhu Min had been looking at him frequently, speculating that she might have been in love with him. When Zhu Min approached, Zhang Xiao who left the classroom to avoid being a third wheel. Zhu Min asked if he was free that evening, making him think she might be asking him out. Feeling unprepared, he guessed she might feel indebted to him for saving her in the cave, leading to her developing feelings. In his mind, he hoped she would control her emotions and not ask him out at this stage. Mo Fan believed they needed to grow older and more mature before entering a relationship. Despite his reservations, he reluctantly told her that he was free. Zhu Min then informed him that she wanted to meet behind the school gate that evening. Mo Fan arrived before her and was surprised at the choice of location for their conversation. He had imagined that discussions about love usually took place in hotels or restaurants. Nevertheless, he waited for her, and when she arrived, she revealed the reason for bringing him there. Zhu Min explained that her grandmother lived in that area, and every evening they heard what seemed like an earthquake. Some community members believed it was a ghost, leading to relocations. Zhu Min had her grandmother move, but she insisted on staying. To investigate, Zhu Min chose Mo Fan, the best student in their school, for help. Mo Fan acknowledged her decision and began searching the area for signs of a monster. He pulled out a powder from his pocket, which Zhu Min recognized as a monster-searching powder. They sprinkled it on the ground, revealing large footprints. Realizing the seriousness of the situation, Mo Fan concluded that only monster hunters could handle such a monster. Zhu Min suggested calling the monster hunters, unaware that Mo Fan was among them. As they observed, a one-eyed wolf emerged from its hiding place, devouring a bloody snack. Mo Fan, expressing his concern, asked Zhu Min if she noticed that the monster was much larger than the ones their teacher had shown them in class. Even though they didn't understand why the monster was so huge, Mo Fan knew it was a place for abandoned people. The area was so secluded that even the police avoided it. Mo Fan suspected that the monster had been feeding on refugees. Urgently, he instructed Zhu Min to go back home, gather her grandmother and the community members, and call the police from a safe distance. Zhu Min questioned him, saying she had already called the police. As her phone rang, the monster noticed their presence and started chasing them. Mo Fan, carrying Min, reminded her that the monsters were sensitive to signals. They ran, and Mo Fan unleashed his level 2 fire to distract the monster, but it had no effect. Meanwhile, Kai Tang, responding to Mo Fan's call, met Zhu Min, who explained the situation and told her the location. Kai Tang quickly arrived and used her ice spear skill, Coagulate, to freeze the creature. Looking at Mo Fan, she recalled the past when Mo Fan peeked at her in the bath and screamed at him to leave if he wanted to survive. Her friend asked who Mo Fan was, and she described him as the boy who challenged Mu Xiaoan. She called the captain, asking him to contact Fan Mo for support. Mo Fan had changed his attire and mask before rejoining his teammates. Together, they fought the monster using his thunder and freezing it with Kai Tang's ice powers. They avoided using fire to prevent destroying the ice. They had called Yang Zhao from the Magic Council for help. As they waited, the one-eyed wolf broke free and attacked. They realized the monster was trying to evolve. Fearing the increased difficulty, they decided to retreat. If it evolved to a general class, they would become its prey. One member suggested retreating, but the captain reminded them of what was at stake. Buildings, people on the streets, others in houses eating, and even some lovers having a nice time. Retreating meant risking the lives of thousands. The captain insisted they couldn't be cowards. It was their duty to save the city. He asked Freichai to activate his wave to stop the monster from breaking the ice smear and the thunder. Despite their efforts, the monsters broke through their magic and even evolved. Left with no choice, the captain activated his fire magic to incinerate the monster. They thought the monster was dead and even joked about the captain being great to defeat such a creature with just one attack. To their shock, the monster returned to attack their captain. They screamed for Xiaoqi to use her water shield to protect their team. While others strategically positioned themselves to attack, they tried to stop the monster from breaking free from Xiaoqi's shield. Mo Fan, realizing Xiaoqi couldn't succeed, carried her away. The monster attacked their captain, and they attempted to protect him by activating various magics and holding back the creature. However, their efforts seemed futile. At that point, Mo Fan stood on a car and activated his level 2 thunder magic, the Thunder Whip, for the first time. The whip weakened the monster, and Kai Tang informed him that monsters like that had weaknesses, thunder being one of them. Mo Fan continued fighting to prevent the monster from breaking free. As time passed, the monster became accustomed to the thunder, rendering it ineffective. Despite this, Mo Fan refused to give up. He kept fighting and struggling to ensure the monster didn't break free from his attack. The others tried to hold their captain to safety, suggesting they couldn't win and should escape. Angry at their lack of determination, the captain activated his incinerate again, encouraging the others to join the magic fight. Suddenly, a violent wave swept the monster away. They realized it was a spell called Tsunami and saw Yang Zhao, an advanced tier wind magician. He commended Mo Fan for his great work and took over the battle, activating his cyclone to kill the monster. Mo Fan approached him, wondering if the monster was really dead, but he was just Loki absorbing the monster's spirit. Mo Fan then told Yang Zhao how amazing his magic was. Yang Zhao assured him that Mo Fan would reach that stage soon with his skills. They reunited with the other members, appreciating their efforts in protecting the city. The team shared information about the frequent monster attacks, agreeing to survey the area thoroughly. However, they feared that revealing the truth to the citizens might cause panic, so they decided to work in secret. After the fight, Mo Fan escaped by climbing a wall. Zhu Min discovered her. She burst into tears and hugged Mo Fan. She appreciated Mo Fan for what he did that day and for protecting her grandma. She shared that her grandma had been the only one caring for her since childhood. Losing her grandma would mean losing her true self. Tearfully, she thanked him, and he comforted her with a gentle pat. Later, Mo Fan sat on the rooftop. Observing his pendant, he noticed it had been breathing frequently since swallowing the spirit of a one-eyed wolf. Taking it off, he realized it wanted to evolve, hoping the evolution would help him activate his level 3 power before his fight with Yuan. Mo Fan soon went out with Xingxia. He handed her an envelope of money, explaining it was for her upkeep. He urged her to buy a phone so he wouldn't have to keep searching for her. Xingxia, surprised by the large sum, hesitated, saying he needed to save, too. Mo Fan insisted she uses the money for her needs, assuring her he earned enough. She shared the good news: she had awakened the healing element, white magic. Mo Fan was shocked, as basic mages usually only awaken basic elements. Xingxia mentioned her teacher claimed there were exceptions. She vowed to practice and connect her star path to help him when injured. Another day came. Sitting under a tree with Zhang Xiaohu, Mo Fan reflected on time passing quickly due to training and monster fights. Zhang Xiaohu questioned Mo Fan's reference to fighting monsters, unaware of his involvement in any hunting group. Concerned, Zhang Xiao, who asked about Mo Fan's training and reminded him of the upcoming duel with Yuang, scheduled on Yuang's 18th birthday. Tang Yu joined them and informed Mo Fan that the principal wanted to see him. Mo Fan, intrigued by the mention of fire skills, met with Principal Zhu. The principal explained that Master Wu's duel had a more significant purpose than celebrating Yuan's coming of age. It determined who would train at the underground Holy Spring, an area that accelerated a mage's advancement. Mo Fan, the best student, and Yuang, the best in the royal family, were the contenders for this prestigious opportunity. They revealed to him that Mu Xiaoan wanted to use the duel for 3 purposes. Firstly, to punish Mo Fan, secondly, to celebrate his son, and lastly, to name his son the best student in the city. They informed him that Yuang had trained with the best equipment and knew that Mo Fan wasn't at his level. However, Mo Fan should still make them proud. He didn't understand why nobody had confidence in his ability, but he was determined to prove himself. Mu Xiaoan met with his daughter Mu Ningxu and told her that the coming-of-age ceremony should have been held for her instead of Yuang. However, she wasn't interested in their city and wanted a better platform. That's why Mu Xiaoan was training Yuang to be her right hand when the time came for her to be the successor. She asked her father if the duel was necessary, expressing concern about Mo Fan or Yuang. Mu Xiaoan explained that the duel was for entertainment and to showcase the best, and it would happen. Mu Ningxu left the house to find Mo Fan. She located him sitting by a mountain, having asked Xingxia about his whereabouts. She insisted that he shouldn't participate in the duel. Mo Fan jokingly suggested it was her turn to run away with him, but she clarified that he should go alone. She informed him that Yuang, adopted by her father at 7, was very loyal and would do anything to make them proud, even if it meant harming Mo Fan. She reminded him of his upcoming university entrance examination, expressing concern that injuries from the duel could jeopardize it. Mo Fan asserted that he wouldn't miss the ceremony, prompting Mu Ningxu to share that her father, despite his selfishness, was not hated by her. Mo Fan then narrated how his father was the best, supporting him through humiliations and challenges. Despite facing difficulties, Mo Fan wouldn't run away. He wanted to make his father proud. On the day of the duel, he walked to the mansion, where guests and his city hunter teammates had gathered. Kai Tang welcomed them, and Mo Fan approached his teammates, revealing himself without his usual hoodie and mask. However, they didn't recognize him. Mo Fan also learned that Mu Xiaoan had invited his father as a special guest to witness his humiliation. Kai Tang embarrassed him in front of his teammates, claiming that he looked too unfamiliar. Mo Fan entered the mansion, and Xiao Qi noticed something familiar to him. Jian Kong approached Mo Fan and recruited him as usual. Mo Fan's schoolmates arrived to support him. The program began with Mu Xiaoan welcoming the guests and explaining the purpose of the duel. They moved to the field, where Mo Fan's father and his city hunter team captain were present. Yuang joined Mo Fan on the field, and Mu Xiaoan briefly addressed the gathering, expressing his desire for Yuang to showcase what he had learned over the years. The students were upset that Mu Xiaoan didn't even try to introduce Mo Fan to the people. Mu Bai's friend stated that Mo Fan was just being used as a scapegoat. The fight began with a handshake between the two competitors. Yuang told Mo Fan that he wouldn't fight him lightly, but Mo Fan asked him to take care of himself first. Yuang initiated the battle with a level 2 skill, Creeping Ice, attempting to solidify. In response, Mo Fan activated his Melting Ice, a level 2 skill with a fire burst to melt the ice. While observing the exchange, Principal Zhu commended Mo Fan's decision. After Yuang's failed attack, Mo Fan unleashed his level 2 fire bursts, but Yuang dodged them swiftly. Jian Kong, confused about Yuang's speed, discovered that Yuang had magical shoes with the earth element, allowing him to run faster. Mo Fan attempted another attack with level 2 cremation, but Yuang evaded all the strikes. Yuang thought he had won and expressed his superiority in equipment and upbringing. He activated his level 3 Creeping Ice Storm, almost freezing everyone. The guests believed Mo Fan had lost, as they couldn't fathom Yuang reaching level 3 already. However, one guest informed Mu Xiaoan that the fight should end, fearing Mo Fan might freeze to death. Mu Xiaoan refused, claiming a fire mage couldn't freeze so easily. He was determined to teach Mo Fan a lesson. Mo Fan struggled to connect his star paths against the overwhelming ice. Despite the difficulty, he succeeded and summoned a level 3 fire burst, melting the ice. Yuang acknowledged Mo Fan's improvement but asserted he still wasn't a match. He activated his level 3 firestorm, seemingly defeating Yuang. Surprisingly, Yuang stood up, revealing his fire-resistant magic armor. Guests were outraged, claiming the fight was unfair. Mu Xiaoan defended himself, saying Mo Fan's lack of such armor wasn't his fault. Jian Kong, tired of the unfairness, urged Mo Fan to give up. Yuang mocked Mo Fan's background, stating his father's poverty. In response, Mo Fan remembered his father's sacrifices and screamed that Mu Xiaoan couldn't provide what his father had. He declared he would show them real power, connecting the stars of his thunder magic. Mo Fan revealed he had dual magic at level 3, shocking everyone. Jan Kong claimed it was impossible for Mo Fan to have two elements. The hunter team realized Mo Fan was their teammate all along. Mo Fan then confessed that it was his real power and he unleashed his level 3 Thunder Dragon, breaking through Yuang's magic armor and defeating him. Mo Fan declared himself the winner of the duel, but the surprises didn't end there. Shortly after, Mo Fan faced Mu Xiaoyan and didn't hesitate to demand an apology from him. Obviously, that shocked everybody, but what froze them in place was the fact that Mu Xiaoyan apologized to our protagonist's father. Right after, he declared Mo Fan as the winner and bestowed him the right to train in the underground holy spring for 7 days. By the way, at that point, the City Hunters team members already knew that Mo Fan was the mysterious lightning mage. But they were not angry. In fact, all of them, along with the students and teachers from the academy, were glad to see our protagonist's victory. And yes, Mu Ningzu was happy too. Afterward, the people from the academy gathered in a restaurant to celebrate, and they all complimented Mo Fan for his talent. They even thought that after training for 7 days in the Holy Spring he might be able to use mid-tier magic. Elsewhere, a group of mysterious men were discussing how their plan of using the Holy Spring had failed because Mo Fan had defeated Yuang, and about how the higher-ups had lost their patience on all that time wasted. Then, one of them apologized and asked for another chance, to which the others agreed, but at the cost of punishing him. Some time later, Zhang Xiaohu and Heiyu were walking down a street while she was saying that she was a failure as a water mage, and that was why she had asked him to help her. Soon after, they got to see Mo Fan with Xinxia by chance, and that led them to talk about couples and dates, making Heiyu flee out of embarrassment. As for Mo Fan, he had just bought his sister a gift for her 16th birthday. Zhang Xiao, who met them shortly after and reminded our protagonist that he had to go to the Holy Spring to begin his training there. Afterward, he arrived at the Holy Spring and met Mu Xiaoyan and Tang Yu, who took him to the exact location where he would be training for the following 7 days. The teacher even gave him a special item to help him use mid-tier magic. Immediately thereafter, Mo Fan met Zhu Daoang, who told him that the protector of the Holy Spring was the elder sister of the missing girl from Mingwen Middle Girls' School. In fact, she was investigating the case and she had already discovered a spring water similar to the holy spring water, but that had the effect of triggering the innate violent potential of any live forms, bringing them to a berserk stage. Shortly after, Mo Fan arrived at the place where he would train for the following week, and its pendant began to show a strong reaction to the water. In the meantime, a strange rain began to fall outside. Berserk monsters began to attack the patrolling teams of the army, and after assessing the situation, Jan Kong ordered to activate the protocol for a level 4 emergency, which meant he had ordered to use a blood-red signal, the alarm for a dire disaster. As for Mo Fan, he was still training at the Holy Spring, but he was still not able to use mid-tier magic. Meanwhile, at the academy, the teachers began to take the students inside since the city alarms had been activated due to the appearance of monsters. In fact, Tang Yu was currently fighting one of them to save some civilians, and she was astonished after seeing a winged wolf. To make things worse, Xinxia was also downtown and had encountered one of the berserk wolves. Back at the Snow Peak station, Jan Kong was informed that monsters had also appeared in the city, so they were requesting their assistance. However, Jan Kong couldn't get why monsters had appeared in the city when the Snow Peak station, where he was at that moment, hadn't lost its guard. Of course, he immediately ordered to send reinforcements to the city, although he was aware that his decision might cause the fall of the Snow Peak station. Back with Mo Fan, he was recalling when Tang Yu explained that he had to make his stardust evolve into star clouds, and then arrange his 7 star paths into a complete star map before being able to release mid-tier magic. Outside, Mu Xiaoyan and Mu Ningzu, along with other people, were fighting several berserk wolves, while the former said there was no time to go to the Holy Spring to help the people there. Moreover, despite Ningzu killing a lot of the monsters, her father ended up wounded, and they both ended up escaping in a winged beast while she thought of our protagonist. Elsewhere, the mysterious men from before revealed they were behind the attack since they wanted to lower the city defenses to enter the area below the central building. Back with Mo Fan, the place got under attack by berserk giant rats, and that forced him to stop his training. Luckily, the elder sister of the missing girl appeared and helped him. Right after, she used a mystical bottle to gather all the underground holy water, and then took our protagonist to a hidden tunnel so they could escape. While they were walking down the tunnel, she revealed to him that some organization called Black Council had created a violent spring water and had added it to the rainwater, causing the attack on the city. Soon after, they exited the tunnel and our protagonist quickly realized they were at the back mountain of Tianlan Magic High School. Nevertheless, what shocked both of them was the sight of the winged wolf at the top of the tallest building in the city. The berserk wolves were causing havoc in the city, killing everybody in their wake. Of course, after realizing that, both the woman and Mo Fan began to get worried, especially our protagonist since he didn't know what had happened to his dad or Xinxia. Speaking of Xinxia, she barely managed to enter a building along with other people. Actually, she almost got killed, but a middle-aged man saved her, and the others immediately closed the gate since they didn't want the monsters to get inside, although they were aware there were more people outside. Back with Mo Fan, he wanted to help his dad and his sister, but the woman gave him the mystical bottle and asked him to take it to a safe zone since she would be easier to track by the enemy due to her position as a military mage. At first, he refused since he only wanted to help his family. However, she reminded him that he was still alive because some mages had given their lives to protect them when the facility was attacked. Plus, she had lost her little sister a year before when she was on a mission. That made him change his mind. He then gave her a picture of his family and asked her to protect them. She promised to do that and he left. Elsewhere, Mo Fan's dad was driving on a road and he met Muhi, whose car had broken down. However, Muhi didn't want to go to the city but to the safe zone. But in the end, he had to agree since Mo Fan's father needed to see if his son was safe. At the Snow Peak station, Jan Kong received a report that the situation in the city had gotten worse and ordered Yang Zuohi to go there. In the meantime, the students in the academy were being massacred by berserk wolves and giant rats, although Mu Bai and Zhu Min were doing their best to protect as many classmates as they could. Near them, Zhang Xiaohu and Heyu were attacked by two berserk giant rats, but thanks to his wind magic they managed to escape. Sadly, they ran into a berserk wolf that captured the young man, but Mo Fan appeared at that moment and saved him. Right after, both young men killed the monster. Afterward, the trio went to the gym where all the survivors seemed to be gathering. At the gym, the teachers were discussing a strategy to take all the survivors to the safe zone and decided to create a vanguard team to scout ahead so the rest could move safely since moving everybody at the same time would be way too risky. In the end, Mo Fan, Mu Bai and a few others joined the vanguard team. Elsewhere, the woman who gave Mo Fan the mystical bottle was about to get killed by a berserk gorilla when Yang Zuohi appeared and saved her. Then they discussed the Black Council's motivation and concluded they were after the Us. Soon after, she told him that she had given it to Mo Fan and they decided to go find him. Meanwhile, Mu Zhuoyun and Mu Ningzhu arrived at the safe zone and she took her dad to a doctor. Unfortunately, when she asked if there were students from the academy there, the soldiers informed her that there weren't. The teacher leading the vanguard team ordered them to split out to cover a wider area, but shortly after a giant rat killed Zhang Yinglu. Mo Fan and the others were astonished after seeing that but reacted quickly and found the monster that was trying to ambush Heyu. In the end, they managed to kill it, but they were aware that because of their weakness, a friend had died. Zhu Min carried back her body and after placing it on the floor, they all offered some prayers to her classmate before continuing their mission. Right after, the teacher leading the vanguard team asked Mo Fan how he had been able to stay calm and make decisions when dealing with monsters. Our protagonist then revealed that he had been part of the City Hunters team since year 2 of his high school, which meant that he had been dealing with monsters for 2 years. Of course, he also said that he had never seen a situation where the entire city was filled with monsters everywhere. At that moment, Zhang Xiaohu arrived and after reporting how many monsters were left and their locations, Mo Fan asked his friend to lure one of the monsters away but warned him to change his direction constantly to avoid being captured since his wind magic was not that strong yet. Our protagonist then asked Mu Bai to use his ice magic to freeze another monster and told the rest that they would need to get rid of the last one as fast as they could. The plan was to deal with the monsters one by one and overwhelm them with their numbers. Mo Fan then gave them a motivational speech and everybody decided to follow his lead from that moment onwards since our protagonist had earned their respect and admiration by that point. Even the teacher complimented him for his talent as a leader. Zhang Xiaohu quickly found the monster at the fountain, but while he was recalling Mo Fan's tips, the monster noticed him and began its attack, which pulled Zhang Xiaohu out of his reverie, forcing the young man to run for his life. However, he managed to use his magic wind to escape and for a while, he was able to keep the distance by changing his direction constantly. Sadly, the wolf sprang onto a tree and hit him with its claws, wounding him. Afterward, Zhang Xiaohu tried to escape by foot since the monster wouldn't give him enough time to use his wind magic again. but the wolf caught up with him almost immediately and hit him again, causing a bigger wound that time. However, Zhang Xiao who threw dust into the monster's eye and used that opening to cast his wind magic to escape. Unfortunately, he couldn't keep his spell active and had to hide while praying for someone to save him. Nevertheless, Zhang Xiao who quickly realized that if he failed, the monster would kill his friends afterward, so he had to do something instead of just waiting to die or to be saved by someone. At that moment, he thought of a strategy and decided to use it. Shortly after, the wolf found him, and when it attacked, he used a level 3 magic to make the roof where he was to fall on the monster, wounding it. He then ran away, although the wolf got mad after that. Soon after, he arrived at a fence and lured the monster into attacking him, but Zhang Xiao who used his wind magic to teleport away, which caused the wolf to break the fence. The young man then used the iron bars of the fence to impale the monster, killing it. On the other hand, Mu Bai and his friend were holding down the other monster, but the ice mage told his friend to go warn the others that he wouldn't be able to hold it any longer. Nevertheless, his friend tried to convince the other to run away with him. In the end, Mu Bai used more ice on the wolf and ran away with his friend to warn the others. As for the rest, Mo Fan and the other lightning mage had almost killed the last wolf when Zhang Xiao who appeared beside Heyu and fell due to his wounds. Almost immediately, Mu Bai and his friend appeared, and the wolf they were supposed to handle also arrived with them. Mo Fan then went to attack that wolf and quickly killed it, causing Mu Bai to wonder when our protagonist had gotten that strong. Elsewhere, Mo Fan's dad's car got a flat tire and Mu ordered him to fix it, but while he was doing that, the man from the Mu family abandoned him. Back with the Vanguard team, they managed to kill the last wolf, and Mo Fan then began to explain to them how they should work as a team according to their elements. After hearing that, Heyu began to blame herself because she hadn't been able to protect Zhang Yinglu, but Zhang Xiao who had regained consciousness, told her to believe in herself. Sadly, at that moment the teacher realized Zhang Xiao whose wounds wouldn't stop bleeding unless he was given a special medicine. He then remembered that there was a drugstore nearby, and Mo Fan volunteered to go there to find the medicine while the others kept going to the safe zone. The Vanguard team kept going, and luckily for them, there were no monsters nearby. One of them was carrying Zhang Xiao who looked weak, although Heyu was beside him very concerned about his situation. However, Mu Bai quickly noticed that everything was too quiet, which was not a good sign, and that turned out to be right because shortly after they discovered a huge general class monster. On the other hand, Lin Yuzin, the woman who gave Mo Fan the bottle, was fighting some monsters when Bai Yang arrived and helped her. He then informed her that he had given up the Snow Peak station and that he was on his way to Tianlan Magic High to protect a student. As for Mo Fan, he was on his way to the drugstore while recalling some moments he had spent with Zhang Xiao who, in fact, he had told our protagonist that he wanted to be his sidekick. Back with the Vanguard team, Mu Bai explained to the others the monster's ranks: Servant Class, General Class, and Commander Class, which were equivalents to the mage's ranks: Beginner, Mid, and Expert. Of course, all the monsters they had faced up to that moment had been Servant Class, and that gave the others an idea of how dangerous could be a General Class monster. Back with Mo Fan, he arrived at the drugstore but couldn't find the medicine. What he found was a berserk giant rat that immediately attacked him. Luckily, the tremors caused by that made the medicine fall to the floor, and he quickly grabbed it. Before dodging the rat, that ended up in the street. At that moment, the mighty Ina appeared, ate the rat, and noticed our protagonist who was still wondering why such a monster was in the city. Back with the Vanguard team, they were discussing what to do when Mo Fan appeared with the medicine. He had used the sewers to escape from the general class monster. The teacher then took the medicine and healed Zhang Xiao whose wounds. In the meantime, the rest of the students and teachers found Zhang Yinglu, and some of them began to cry after recognizing her. In fact, they decided to take her along to the safe zone. Back with the Vanguard team, they were in the forest and could see the safe zone ahead. At that moment, they met Bai Yang, and after explaining their situation, the officer asked Mo Fan to give him the bottle containing the Uz, but our protagonist refused, saying he wanted to hand it over to Officer Zhan Kong directly, which forced the other to show his true colors. Inside the safe zone, the refugees kept arriving, and the doctor informed Mu Zhuoyun and Mu Ningzhu that they were lacking manpower at the moment. Then, she heard that a lot of students from the academy were heading there and decided to help them since she guessed Mo Fan would be with them. Nevertheless, his father forbade her from doing that and asked some guards to keep an eye on her. Back with the Vanguard team, Bai Yang asked Mo Fan why he was suspicious of him, and our protagonist replied that when he killed his pet in the cave, he was told that it had reacted violently due to some violent spring water, and after what was currently happening he thought that both things were related. Bai Yong then made 3 gorilla monsters appear and used his spirit wolf to attack Mo Fan. Almost immediately, one of the gorilla monsters was about to kill Zhang Xiaohu, but he was saved by Heiyu's barrier, although she ended up being the one getting killed by another gorilla. Mu Bai, his friend, Zhu Min, and the other lightning mage reacted at that moment and began to attack the gorillas. Meanwhile, Zhang Xiaohu went to Heiyu, who told him that she was glad because she had finally used her power to protect someone. He then asked why he had protected him instead of her, and she replied by confessing her feelings before dying. To make things worse, Bai Yong kept summoning gorillas while his pet kept Mo Fan restrained. However, our protagonist unleashed his power to send the spirit wolf away. Unfortunately, there were other monsters ready to attack. Mo Fan then took out the bottle, and after teasing Bai Yong, he decided to drink the us. And of course, Bai Yong, as a true gentleman, allowed Mo Fan to do that by sitting in front of him motionless for half a minute. After Mo Fan was finally done, Bai Yong decided to even wait for our protagonist to hit his pet with a lightning attack before finally sending the gorillas after him. At that moment, Zhu Min and Mu Bai decided to buy some time for Mo Fan by attacking the monsters around him. Shortly after, all the gorillas near our protagonist were killed, but Zhu Min got injured by the spirit wolf that right after attacked Mo Fan. Luckily, the teacher managed to distract both Bai Yong and his pet, giving time for Mo Fan to attack the spirit wolf. Bai Yong then summoned another gorilla, but before he could make another move, Mu Bai appeared and killed him with an ice blade, causing all the summoned monsters, even the spirit wolf, to disappear. Afterward, Zhang Xiaohu began to cry out loud while holding Heiyu in his arms. Yang Zuohe and his men arrived, and Zhao Kunsan complained to them for arriving after everything had been solved. However, when the military men saw the body of Bai Yong, they got on guard, thinking the worst. But Mo Fan quickly diffused the situation by explaining what had happened and showing them proof of Bai Yong's betrayal. After examining the evidence, Yang Zuohe ordered a few of his men to keep investigating the evidence, and then he ordered the rest to return to the safe zone with the vanguard team. Some of his men were reluctant to follow that command since they refused to believe Bai Yong was a traitor, but Yang Zuohe managed to convince them in the end. Shortly after, all of them finally arrived at the safe zone. Meanwhile, in the city, a group of military men was discussing whether they should go to the US or not. It was not an easy call since the city was completely infested by monsters, and it was easy to assume that everybody there should be dead, especially after noticing the general class monsters that had appeared. However, they had no idea how all those monsters had appeared in the first place, since even the Black Council was not that powerful to use dimensional magic, which was the only explanation they could think of at that moment. Unfortunately, when they were about to define a strategy, the winged wolf noticed them and immediately thereafter shot a powerful laser beam toward them, killing them all. Back with the students, the rest of them were close to the safe zone, and one of the teachers received a message from the vanguard team's teacher informing them that the coast was clear, so they kept advancing. As for our protagonist, he was taken to see Zhan Kong, who at that moment was receiving a report confirming Bai Yong's betrayal. Of course, Mo Fan didn't waste time and made Zhan Kong notice that because of his negligence, Zhang Yinlu and Heiyu had died. However, when our protagonist revealed that he had swallowed the us, it was the turn of Zhan Kong to get mad. Although after almost strangling him, the general calmed down, thinking that the us was more of a disaster than a blessing for the city at that moment. Mo Fan then asked what they were planning to do, and Zhan Kong revealed that they were thinking of eliminating the commander class monster, the winged wolf. After all, he was an expert tier mage, so he was capable of taking that beast down. In theory, immediately thereafter, white wings appeared on his back, and he, along with his men and their winged beasts, went towards the city to kill the winged wolf. In the meantime, Zhang Xiaohu resolved himself to be part of the military so Heiyu could be proud of him. Back with Mo Fan, Mu Ningzhu arrived where he was, but right after she hugged him, her dad arrived and began badmouthing him. Nevertheless, our protagonist didn't remain quiet and countered him, but Mu Ningzhu intervened and stopped him. Afterward, he left while thinking of his dad and his sister, without knowing that his dad at that moment was about to get killed by a berserk giant rat. Luckily, just when Mo Fan's dad was about to get killed, Lin Yuzhen appeared and saved him. Unfortunately, the man passed out and various wolves began to go to where they were. As for Mo Fan, he checked the list of refugees and found out that neither his dad nor his sister were in the safe zone. At that time, the military discovered that the monsters had bypassed their defenses thanks to some tunnels, so they realized they had to find the underground location as soon as possible and destroy their spawn channels completely if they wanted that nightmare to end. That reminded him what had happened during his first mission with the city hunters team and told them that the rats were the ones digging the tunnels. Then they all concluded that if they could map the movements of the rats, they could find the underground location they were looking for. They then called the city hunters team and they all began checking the records of the movements of the rats. Soon after, they realized that the most concentrated area was Mingwen district, which confirmed Mo Fan's guess that the largest spawn channel was in Mingwen Girls High School. In the end, the military and the city hunters team formed a special unit to go there to investigate. Afterward, Mo Fan met his dad, who had been taken to the safe zone by Lai Wenjai and Fei Shi. Sadly, they informed him that Lin Yuzin had died protecting his father. Right after, his father began to cry, thinking of Xinzia. Some time later, the special unit was ready to depart and the members of the Vanguard team noticed it. But what really shocked them was to see Mo Fan joining that group. In fact, they got closer and asked Mo Fan why he was heading out, and he explained he needed to find his sister. Then his father arrived and tried to stop him, but it was to no avail. In the end, the unit leader allowed him to join them, but he made clear that they couldn't help him with his search. As for Xinzia, she was still inside the building along with other survivors. Nevertheless, out of desperation, they had decided to escape using the sewers, and when another young woman asked them if they could help Xinzia, they all refused and left, so she decided to carry her. However, Xinzia told her to go alone, gave her the gift his brother had given to her, and asked her to give it to a guy named Mo Fan if she managed to reach the safe zone. She also asked her to tell him she had died. However, after the other young woman left, Xinzia grabbed a knife while thinking that everybody had a right to live. Back with the special unit, they had identified the largest monster spawn channel at Mingwen Girls High School's outdoor stadium, so they were heading there to destroy it. The special unit decided to go on foot since they were close to their target, and Mo Fan had the chance to see seasoned mages fighting, which showed him how important was to have combat experience. Moreover, he also learned that mid-tier magic had also 3 levels. Zhu Daowang then told him that the star path would be tougher when he reached the mid-tier level, not to mention that it was pretty difficult to cast mid-tier magic within a short time. Of course, Mo Fan was confident because he thought that he would probably be able to skip the arrangement part and cast mid-tier magic directly thanks to the item Tang Yu had given to him. Shortly after, they found a dying man who had tried to use the sewers to escape without knowing that the sewers were the nests of the giant rats. However, before they kept going, Mo Fan saw the corpse of a girl who was wearing the bracelet he had given to his sister, and he feared the worst. Luckily, when he got closer, he confirmed it was not Xinzia. It was the girl who had tried to help her, and thought that perhaps that girl had met Xinzia before. Furthermore, since the girl was wearing the uniform of Mingwen supermarket, perhaps the people who had tried to go through the sewers might have been coming from the supermarket. Mo Fan then decided to go to the supermarket, so he parted ways with the others. As for Xinzia, she was doing her best to remain hidden since the giant rats had begun to invade the building. Some time later, 2 members of the Black Council were surveilling the city when they detected Mo Fan, and one of them immediately went to kill him. Shortly after, they both met, and it was revealed that the guy who was wearing a mask was Yuang. Although once he took off his mask, it was clear that half of his face was severely burned. It seemed the higher-ups were very serious when they said Yuang deserved a punishment. Yuang then summoned several black raised gorillas that went after our protagonist, but he couldn't remain there to fight since the higher-ups ordered him to deal with the special unit. As for Mo Fan, he decided to escape since he alone was no match for that amount of monsters. Fortunately, he managed to reach the surveillance room, and thanks to the cameras he was able to confirm that his sister was alive and could also determine where she was. Things were not looking good for the siblings because more rats were roaming around the place where Xinzia was, and the gorillas were about to enter the surveillance room where Mo Fan was. And to make things even worse, Xinzia had left the fridge where she was hiding because she couldn't withstand the cold anymore. Luckily, at that moment, Mo Fan's pendant leveled up thanks to the Uz that he had swallowed, and that combined with the item Tang Yu had given to him allowed our protagonist to reach the mid-tier level. And of course, he was able to cast mid-tier magic instantly. Afterward, he killed all the gorillas that were trying to enter the room, and then he killed the rest of them that were waiting outside. Back with Xinzia, she was doing her best to avoid the giant rats, but in the end, she ended up cornered by them. Fortunately, Mo Fan arrived in time and killed the monsters, rescuing her. However, after seeing him, she passed out, which made him realize she was too cold. So, he used flames to warm her body, and then she woke up. He then gave her bracelet back and promised he would never leave her, which made her cry. Right after, he princess carried her and they both left the building. Xinzia then noticed that the wolves ran away the moment they saw our protagonist and asked him if he had reached the mid-tier level, and he confirmed it, although only with his fire magic. Moreover, he also warned her that although servant-class monsters should pose no threat to them, general-class ones were still very dangerous. Afterward, they both sat on a bench and began to reflect on the destruction that surrounded them. In fact, Mo-Fan began to wonder if the special unit could destroy the spawning channel. At that moment, Xinxia revealed that the day the girl went missing, she had met a very suspicious person who had a strange rotten odor right before the monsters suddenly appeared in the city. And once he confirmed the nature of the smell, our protagonist confirmed that that person belonged to the Black Council. Of course, that meant that the Black Council should have guards in the spawn channel, so Mo-Fan knew he had to warn the special unit. But then he almost passed out and Xinxia noticed he had been injured by one of the gorillas. Luckily, Xinxia used healing magic to cure him, which reminded him that she had awoken the healing element as her first one. He then told her that he would take her to the safe zone before going to help the special unit. But she refused and replied that she wanted to go with him, because if something happened to him she would even crawl her way out the safe zone. Moreover, same as him, she felt she had a responsibility as a mage to help the city. The special unit managed to get to the monster spawn channel, thanks to Guo Kaitang, who had used the military's summoned monsters to search for its exact location. Zhu Daowang then put Xiaoqi in charge of a young girl they had just rescued, and then the rest began to destroy the channel. Unfortunately, monsters still came out from the channel and they were forced to deal with them first. What they didn't know was that Yuang and his partner were going there to attack them by surprise. Back with the siblings, they were on a motorbike, but Xinxia noticed that Mo-Fan was still taking her to the safe zone. Although before she could complain, they were attacked by a general-class monster that forced them to escape. Once they did, she told him that she had done nothing while he had risked her life to open a path to the safe zone for the school. But he replied that it had also been tough for her to be alone in the middle of the disaster. Back with the special unit, they were still fighting monsters when Yuang and his friend appeared. However, instead of beginning a battle, Yuang offered them to join the Black Council, an offer that was rejected. Right after, the fight began. Sadly, Yuang's friend quickly abandoned the fight only to get killed by an ice spell. Immediately thereafter, Yuang summoned several black raised gorillas, but they all were crushed by the special unit. That also defeated him. On the other hand, Jan Kong and his men got closer to the winged wolf that immediately sensed them and got ready to kill them. Although it wasn't planning on confronting them directly, instead he had summoned several monsters to do that job. After seeing that, Jan Kong's men decided to do the same and fight the monsters to save the general's energy for the final battle. Some time later, Jan Kong was in front of the winged wolf, but the price paid had been way too high. All his men had died killing all the summoned monsters. Right after, their battle began. The fight was so spectacular that Mo-Fan and Xinxia were able to see it from afar, and that made our protagonist realize there was no time to take her to the safe zone since the spawning channel should be destroyed at all costs before more monsters were to help the winged wolf. Shortly after, Mo-Fan and Xinxia arrived at the spawning channel where the special unit was about to give up since a general class monster had appeared. But our protagonist used mid-tier magic not only to kill it but also to destroy the channel, shocking everybody. What they didn't know was that Yuang had survived, although he decided to flee after seeing what Mo-Fan had done. However, the battle between Jan Kong and the winged wolf hadn't finished, and the fate of the city and everybody depended on its outcome. Watch this next video. Don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon for more recaps. And let me know what you think about this anime on the comments. Till the next my recap followers.